Uh, Happy birthday to Larry Parsons, by the way. Right, we're going to go into an expose now. Kamala Devi Harris, born the 20th of October 1964, is a US politician and lawyer serving as the Vice President of the United States from the 20th of January 2021. Now, of course, she's a member of the Democratic Party and served as the United States Senator from California between 2017 and 2021, and also the Attorney General of California from 2011 to 2017. Now, her early career is tied to Willie Brown. Sounds like a... no, perhaps not. Sounds like a porn movie to me, though. And Harris started her career as a lawyer in 1990 after graduating from Howard University and the University of California's Hastings College of the Law and the Alameda County District Attorney's Office in Oakland. And from there she was recruited to the San Francisco's District Attorney's Office to run the department's career criminal unit. Now, in the mid-90s, Harris started dating Willie Brown, the mayor of San Francisco and one of California's most powerful politicians. Now, Brown was investigated by the FBI when he was Speaker of the California Assembly, and as mayor was dogged by conflict of interest as he used his political machine to steer government contracts and jobs to friends. And in 2003, Harris's critics used the relationship with Brown to contend that she was not independently qualified to hold office and that if elected, she would hesitate to investigate corruption at City Hall. And Eric J., a political strategist in the city, said Harris's emergence from San Francisco politics reminded him of Andy Dufresne, the Tim Robbins character from the Shawshank Redemption. Andy Dufresne, he said, quoting a line from the movie, who crawled through a river of shit and came out clean on the other side. Now, the Brown family are one of the 4 unholy California crime families: Brown, Pelosi, Feinstein, and Newsom. Now, Newsom is related to Pelosi, but he also has family connections to the Browns. And the connections date back at least 80 years to when Jerry Brown's father, Pat Brown, ran for the San Francisco District Attorney and lost in 1939 but won in 1943 with the help of his close friend and Gavin Newsom's grandfather, the businessman William Newsom. Funny how they all connect the dots, is it not? In 2003, she was elected District Attorney of San Francisco. She was elected Attorney General of California in 2010 and reselected in 2014. She also served as the junior United States Senator for California from 17 to 21. And she was asked her views on Israel during that time. In July 2019, Kamala Harris was interviewed on the Kyle Kulinski show and was asked whether she considered Israel was meeting international standards of human rights. And Harris seemed determined to say nothing that could be remotely construed as critical, and her initial answer consisted of this word salad. I think Israel as a country is dedicated to being a democracy and is one of our closest friends in that region, and that we should understand the shared values and priorities that we have as a democracy, and conduct foreign policy in a way that is consistent with understanding the alignment between the American people and the people of Israel. Someone needs to tell Harris that this country is not a democracy government. It's a republic. And unsatisfied with that, the interviewer followed up, does Israel meet your human rights standards to your personal satisfaction? Harris, playing for time, asked, what specifically are you referring to? Hello, McFly. Basic question. Before finally answering the question, she said, overall, yes. This means that Harris sees no problem with Israel's policy of sending snipers to systematically and deliberately kill unarmed civilians, including children, who protest their internment in the besieged Gaza Strip. It means she also sees no problem with Israel's skyrocketing demolitions of Palestinian homes in the occupied West Bank to make way for Jewish-only settlements, which is a war crime. It also means she sees no problem with Israel's military detention and torture of Palestinian children. It means she sees no problem with dozens of Israeli laws that discriminate against Palestinian citizens of Israel solely for not being Jewish. And these include laws and policies that promote the kind of housing discrimination and official segregation that is banned in the US thanks to civil rights laws she claims to uphold. It also means she sees no problem with Israel's recent nation-state law, explicitly affirming superior rights for Jews over Palestinians. And Kyle Kulinski, who is a commentator and founder of the Progressive Political Action Committee Justice Democrats, offered a scathing response to Harris's overall yes. And he said that Harris, brushing aside Israel's horrific record, shows that her moral and ethical concerns are non-existent. She's playing the political game that people play in the United States of America to try and get ahead. And it also shows you that she's unlikely to change anything. And he adds, that's why this is important. But the reality is Harris is a puppet of the unholy four, who are all puppets to the Israeli junta and the AIPAC lobbyists. On the 20th of January, the Democrats officially took control of the Senate when the Vice President Kamala Harris swore in 3 new members after she took her own oath of office, giving her party control of the White House and Congress. Harris delivered the oath of office in the new Democratic Senators John Ossoff, Raphael Warnock of Georgia, and Alex Padilla, who replaced her, representing the state of California. The Vice President also serves as the President of the Senate. Another puppet on the string that came out of the second most corrupt state in this country after New York. We're going to out another group who will probably be not familiar to any of our members. I have to say it was not familiar to myself either until recently. But this is another of these think tank groups. The M100 Sanssouci Colloquium is an international media conference that takes place once a year in the castles and gardens of the city of Potsdam outside of Berlin. And apart from leaders of central corporate media, the participants and speakers are often gathered from the overlap between the media and intelligence services. There is no overlap, they're one and the same. And a typical colloquium is about wining and dining of select guests. And one of the purposes of the colloquium is to groom and fund independent voices that conveniently have a worldview identical with the corporate media, especially from Eastern Europe and Russia. And the event is sponsored, among others, by the US government via the National Endowment for Democracy, another waste of taxpayers' money. Now, the colloquium was initiated in 2005 and brings together around 100 internationally leading opinion and media makers with the stated aim of intensifying dialogue with each other, fostering mutual understanding, that means getting their stories right, the role and influence of the media in international investigate and work for democracy, freedom of opinion and the press. Projection. In an instance of projection or hypocrisy during the 2019 summit, the media leaders rued the first threat to press freedom is the demonization of journalists. And from a rhetorical and digital environment where they are framed as enemies of the state, the demonization of journalists crosses over to a physical environment which fuels the rise in attacks on journalists. Yeah, particularly any who question Israel. This is coming from corporate media outlets. The same people that have done their utmost to demonize and deplatform independent media. And as an example of the issues the colloquium sees as self-evidently needing to be solved, Marina Weisband, a speaker at the 2020 colloquium, discussed the question of trust in authorities. And Weisband explained that this is caused by a lack of control and overview in a complex world. And in this context, media would need to stop magnifying irrelevant but loud groups, as well as regarding the view of authoritarians and populists as equally valuable, but rather shape a common ground for discussion. And Weisband hopes that with improved transparency and improved education, the fundamental distrust in media and establishment could be minimized. That'll be a no. Weisband, who is born too, yet another Jewish person in a lead position to decide what is best for the establishment. The point is, there are no journalists anymore. None. Just a bunch of yes people who read scripts and lie through the teeth. Now, part of this M100 Colloquium is they have the Young European Journalists Workshop, which was also initiated in 2005 as part of the colloquium, and every year the workshop is addressed to 25 young journalists between the ages of 18 and 26 from Europe and the countries of the Eastern Partnership and also Russia. In addition to the cultivation, their word, not mine, of practical and theoretical knowledge relating to journalistic work, the workshop also seeks to generate professional contacts and long-term ties amongst participants. In plain speak, that means they are trying to acquire Eastern European and Russian journalists as spies. that is how it works. Now, some of the M100 alumni now work for successful independent funded European media, and several of these are aligned and openly or covertly funded by Western governments, such as The Correspondent in the Netherlands or Hromadski TV in Ukraine. Others have founded their own media organizations, such as the Investigative Network, Corrective, or the international reporting platform Outsiders. So who are the sponsors for this group? The German Foreign Ministry, the US government, funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, Friedrich Naumann Stiftung, whose founder was a part of the Nazi Party and wrote journalistic pieces for Joseph Goebbels' paper Das Reich, and also the PR agency Agentur Medienlabor, MS or M100 Sanssouci Colloquium, another group that's been outed. In 1947, Project Sign was created to acquire as much information as possible about UFOs, their performance, characteristics, and also their purpose. In order to preserve security, liaison between Project Sign and MJ12 was limited to just 2 individuals within the intelligence division of the Air Materiel Command, whose role was to pass along certain types of information through channels. Now, Project Sign evolved into Project Grudge in December of 1948. Now, Project Grudge had an overt civilian counterpart named Project Blue Book, which was fake, with which most of you will be familiar with, and only, quote, safe reports were passed to Project Blue Book. A lot of it was BS, deliberate disinformation. Now, MJ12 was originally organised by General George C. Marshall in July of 1947 to study the Roswell Magdalena UFO crash recovery and debris. Now, I was made aware over 2 decades ago now. There was 3 crashes. I think I've mentioned it before on our show. There wasn't one. There was 3 crashes that happened in New Mexico within 12 months. Now, most know the most popular one is Roswell. But this confirms the 3rd one in Magdalena, which is close to White Sands missile range. The other 2, Roswell and Aztec. And Admiral Hillenkoetter, director of the CIA from May the 1st, 1947 until September 1950, decided to activate the Robertson Panel, which was designed to monitor civilian UFO study groups that were appearing all over the country. Every single one of them, including MUFON, worked for MJ12. All of them. He also joined NICAP in 1956 and was chosen as a member of its board of directors. It was from this position that he was able to act as the MJ12 mole, along with his team of other covert experts. And they were able to steer NICAP in any direction they wanted to go. And with the Flying Saucer program under complete control of MJ12, and with the physical evidence hidden away, General Marshall felt more at ease with this rather bizarre situation. And these men and their successors have most successfully kept most of the public fooled up to the present, including much of the Western world, by setting up false experts and throwing their influence behind them to make their plan work. Corey Good. Wilcock. There's something in my throat. With considerable success until now, and within 6 months of the Roswell crash on July the 2nd, 1947, and the finding of another crashed UFO at the San Agustin Flats near Magdalena, New Mexico on July the 3rd, 1947, a great deal of reorganization of agencies and shuffling of people took place, and the main thrust behind the original security lid and the very reason for its construction was the analysis and attempted duplication of the technologies of the discs. Now, the activity was headed up by the following groups. These are the ones that controlled the UFO narrative. The Research and Development Board, Air Force Research and Development, the Office of Naval Research, CIA Office of Scientific Intelligence, NSA Office of Scientific Intelligence. And not one single member of those groups knew the whole story. And that's probably where M was involved, Marduk. The control system was run the same way, where the lower category didn't know what the one above was doing. It's the same applies in Freemasonry. The stages above are not allowed to tell the lower stages. And each group was to know only the parts that MJ12 allowed them to know. And MJ12 operated through the various civilian intelligence and also investigative groups. And the CIA and FBI are manipulated by MJ12 to carry out their purposes. Now, the NSA was created in the first place to protect the secrets of recovered flying discs. The NSA is a subsidiary of GCHQ in London. And eventually they got complete control over all communication intelligence, the NSA. And this control allows the NSA to monitor any individual through mail, telephone, telexes, telegrams, and now through online computers, monitoring private and personal communications as they may desire. Now, another group that was involved in this is called Jason, and is sometimes explained as an acronym. We'll have more on them in a later show. Some said it stood for July, August, September, and October and November, Jason. And they were typically the months in which this particular group would meet. And some of them stated tongue-in-cheek it meant for junior achiever, somewhat older now. But neither explanation is right, and in fact the name is not an acronym at all. It is simply a reference to the Greek myth Jason and the Argonauts. They do love their old god names. Now, the wife of one of the founders of the Jason group, Mildred Goldberger, born 2 again, thought the name given by the Defense Department, Project Sunrise, was unimaginative and suggested the group be named for a hero and his search. Mildred Ginsburg Goldberger was an American mathematician and economist. She was also a research assistant and computer at Metallurgical Laboratory in the University of Chicago during the Manhattan Project. See how all the dots connect. And she was one of 10 women to sign the Szilard Petition, Szilard, a document written by physicist Leo Szilard petitioning against the use of the atomic bomb in Japan. And she was married to Marvin Murph Goldberger, a physicist who taught at Princeton during J. Robert Oppenheimer's tenure as the director of Institute for Advanced Study. And the Goldbergs would eventually become president and first lady of Caltech. Unbelievable. The dot connection goes on.